ask you a question. Do you know what dyslexia is? For those of you who don't know what dyslexia is, let me give you a quick overview. Dyslexia is when people with no other mental challenges struggle reading, writing, and talking. But those are only the outward signs. Now, I have dyslexia, and ever since I was young, I hated reading. I was slow, I felt stupid, and I was always behind everyone else. Finally, in 3rd grade, I got tested for a learning difference, and that's when I found out I had dyslexia. Now, at the time, I was 8, and I didn't really understand what it all meant. All I knew was I got to leave class, work in a smaller group with my classmates, and we were considered the special group. Now, it wasn't until I was older until I put it all together that this special group was a slow group. Keep in mind, I was 8 at the time, but we were still considered lucky. We were lucky because we got special help and we got testing accommodations. But again, I was 8, and the last thing I wanted was testing accommodations. I just wanted to be normal, and I hated being different and having dyslexia. But now that got me thinking, what exactly causes dyslexia? To answer this question, I looked into the neuroscience of a dyslexic brain. First, people with dyslexia use a different area of the brain than people with non-dyslexia. Among the dyslexics, there is an underactivation in the posterior area of the brain, which plays an essential role in reasoning and attention. At the same time, there's an overactivation in the anterior bronchial area of the brain, which is involved in speech production. In short, the anterior bronchial area of the brain is compensating for the posterior brain area of the brain. Second, a major feature of dyslexia revolves around brain plasticity. Brain plasticity is the ability for a brain to change in reaction and relationship to one's environment. Individuals with dyslexia display a reduced brain plasticity. This means people with dyslexia take in new information and have a harder time relating it and processing it. This decreased brain plasticity in a person with dyslexia is directly connected to neuroadaptation through repetition. This was also proven with the help of scientists from MIT, who in a study compared a dyslexic person to a non-dyslexic. They found that people with dyslexia brain regions devoted to the interpretation of faces, words, and objects show reduced neuroadaptation brain plasticity. The third major factor that revolves around axons, in specific mini-columns, which are vertical columns through the cerebellum and cortical layers of the brain, which serve as poles to connect the two axons. In a normal person, someone might have, let's say, X axons, but in someone with autism, they have Y axons. The difference is these short connections allow someone with autism to have an incredibly detailed and finite scale. On the other end, there are dyslexics who have Y axons. This means the axon's length are a lot longer. This allows a cognitive advantage because we could look at situations and take in all the information at one time. And it allows information to blend. It's basically an advantage of having dyslexia. Thus, many may face challenges with dyslexia, but also we have a special advantage. Yes. Now, I'm fine with having dyslexia now. I realized that I was loved, but I'm also very fortunate. Ever since I was young, I was surrounded by people who told me I was smart. And that really helped me because I realized I wasn't stupid. This made me realize that having dyslexia is not bad, and it did not define who I was. But sadly, I was also very lucky because most kids who have dyslexia, especially in high poverty schools, do not typically receive any special treatment. And if they do, they are put into special ed classes, which kind of just emphasizes the fact that they are dumb. The fact is, dyslexia is not one of those 1 in a million disorders. Dyslexia actually affects 1 in 10 people, which correlates to 10% of the population. Now, can you imagine how you would feel if you were always behind everyone else ever since you were young? Now, this is no surprise in that 62% of people with poor reading skills, including dyslexia, drop out of high school. The larger problem is the testing system. Schools test to see whether a child is intelligent by using reading skills. Reading is basically the primary tool to measure if a child is successful. The education system basically has an obsession in measuring children through public examinations. Thus, examinations often are geared to children with no poor reading skills and who can understand written tests as fast as possible. Now, one may argue that dyslexics have a testing accommodations and technology and readers to make up for it. While yes, it helps, it doesn't take away the burden. Right now, we are using a one-size-fits-all testing system. But again, we're only testing reading skills. We're not testing anything else. A person with reading skills might not have the best creative skills and thinking outside of the box. Now look at this graph. This graph compares reading skills and intelligence. As we can see, for non-dyslexics, reading skills and intelligence are much closer to each other, versus people with dyslexia have their reading intelligence with an intelligence and reading skills have a major gap. So what should change? I wish there was different styles of testing for every subject, and not just dyslexia students to have it. Everyone should take the different tests. This will show people's advantages and creative skills and reading skills, and it will show every student's strengths and weaknesses. But until then, I asked teachers who are watching this, please do not expect your students to all learn in a different way. Every student is unique and every student learns in a different way. Learn from your student. Dyslexia does not measure how smart a person is, or does not define how smart a person is. Dyslexia is just people who struggle with reading, but they are still intelligent and it does not define them. Thank you.